This is Tina Douglas, and you're listening to the Liam Photography Podcast with your host, my husband, Liam Douglas. Enjoy!
Welcome back to the show. Liam here, and today is episode 485 of the Liam Photography Podcast for the week of December 18th, 2025. In today's episode, Japanese Railway asks photographers to not be dumb. A new copyright bill has been introduced in the U.S. House of Representatives, galaxy frogs, and more. Some photographers love taking pictures of trains. In many cases, that is fine. However, in Japan, this passion can go too far. Beyond, quote, menacing society, Japanese train photographers, known as toritsu, are engaging in increasingly dangerous behaviors to get the best shots, and railway companies are working hard to educate and protect photographers from themselves. As reported by Tracy, a Japanese website focused on transportation news, East Japan Railway Company, JR East, announced today that it is launching a new public awareness campaign focused on warning photographers about dangerous behavior on station platforms. While JR East's new campaign includes cute illustrations of photographers depicted as birds doing things like standing on ladders on platforms, stepping in front of trains, taking selfies on accessible surfaces for visually impaired people, and hitting electrical wires with their cameras. The behaviors on display, which are specific enough to be examples of actual actions, are perilous and could undoubtedly result in people getting seriously hurt or killed. The poster, primarily in Japanese, notes that, quote, nuisance photography is on the rise in Japan, and adds that any dangerous or illegal behavior or abuse of station staff will be dealt with in cooperation with the police. A recent Facebook post by Japan Station, a website focused on Japanese transportation, offers a startling example of the dangerous behavior some toritsu engage in when trying to photograph trains. In a video, photographers at Hankyu Juso Station in Osaka were seen with their cameras on active train tracks even after the safety barriers were deployed and warning bells were ringing loudly. Quote, a train was moments away. This is not dedicated to a hobby. It is a dangerous, illegal nuisance that endangers not only the fans' lives, but also the lives of the station staff who had to rush out and confront them, writes Japan Station. Quote, rail safety is not a game. No photo or video is worth risking a collision or causing operational delays for thousands of commuters, Japan Station concludes. JR East notes that even beyond the increasingly dangerous behavior of train photographers at stations and near tracks, photographers have also generally been inconveniencing train passengers through their attempts to take better train photos. And I thought this was a good story to touch on today because I've said it before on this show and it's worth repeating. Please do not impede the trains or train station staff or anything else when you're trying to do railroad photography. Many photographers and videographers have been injured, many of them killed, because they get down on the tracks trying to get a picture of a train. They don't realize the train is coming faster than it seems, and they end up getting hit before they can evacuate the track. So please, people, use common sense. Do not play chicken with a fast-moving train. You're never going to win that battle. A new bill that is being proposed by Senator Marsha Blackburn wants to make it less expensive for visual artists, which includes photographers, to protect their work. Called the Visual Artist Copyright Reform Act of 2025, or VACRA, it wants to reduce fees associated with copyright protection, quote, ensuring that professional creators can't afford to register all of their works, end quote. The bill is co-sponsored by Senator Peter Welch and strongly supported by the American Society of Media Photographers, ASMP. It is the result of years of effort from the ASMP and its sister organizations. The ASMP bills it as the largest step forward in recent history to, quote, modernize and simplify the copyright registration process for photographers and all visual creators, thereby allowing these artists to finally receive the promise and protection of copyright law, end quote. VACRA focuses on increased limits for group registration submissions, deferred registrations, subscription models, and third-party registries, four key areas that alleviate what ASMP describes as widespread pain points faced by hundreds of thousands of creators. Quote, VACRA breaks down the barriers that prevent so many creators and photographers across the country from being able to protect the fruits of their life's work and passion, ASMP Chief Executive Officer Thomas Madry says. Quote, these sorely needed and common sense reforms are long overdue and are a first step in bringing so many artists back into the very copyright system that is designed to support their efforts in the creative economy. ASMP applauds Senators Blackburn and Welch for their leadership and support of VACRA and the far-reaching efforts this bill will have on photographers and all visual creators in this country, end quote. VACRA would increase the cap on group photo registrations to 3,000 works, up from 750, and would order the U.S. Copyright Office to create a new deferred registration option for photo, graphic, and sculptural works, reducing the cost of a deferred registration by half, and delay examination of those works until the copyright owner requests it, Bloomberg Law reports. Additionally, a works registration would become effective the day a deferred application is submitted, which would allow a copyright owner to enforce that copyright in court even if it hasn't been examined by the office. The bill would also get rid of a current requirement that group registrations of published photographs only include those that were published in the same calendar year, and they must also be registered separately from unpublished photos. The bill would instead allow registration to occur without regard to publication status, date of publication, or date of creation. Quote, visual artists produce incredible work that deserves to be protected, but current copyright law has fallen short, Senator Blackburn says. Quote, this bill would fix a broken system by cutting unnecessary costs and bureaucracy, helping America's creative community thrive, end quote. The bill also calls for the Copyright Office to create a searchable registry of electronic copies of copyrighted photos. Because the office would have to build that system, the bill would allow Copyright Office certified private sector registries of photographs until that time. Quote, ASMP and NANPA have worked closely with PPA and many others in the Coalition of Visual Associations to get to the point where this legislation is now a reality. But the work is not yet done, and we will be asking not only our 7,200 plus members, but all photographers and visual creators to do their part to help support this bill as it takes the next steps to becoming law, Madry says. The full VACRA bill can be read online if you desire to read the bill in its entirety. And I think this is a great thing. It's long overdue to have our copyright laws in the U.S. modified to make things easier for creators like myself and any of you out there listening, and make it a lot more practical and allow us to copyright register larger batches of images. Because let's be honest, I mean, there's a lot of photographers out there that are doing hundreds of thousands of photos per year, and being capped and only being able to copyright register 750 at a time is way too low. I like the idea of the 3,000 photo cap in new batch registrations. I think that's a heck of a lot better, and it's going to help alleviate some of the copyright issues in this country going forward. A group of rare galaxy frogs have disappeared from an Indian rainforest and are feared dead after photographers reportedly destroyed their fragile habitat to take pictures of them. Raj Kumar, KP, a Zoological Society of London fellow and researcher, has raised concerns after a group of endangered galaxy frogs went missing, presumed dead, following reports that photographers trespassed into their habitat and damaged the microhabitants the animals rely on. In early 2020, Raj Kumar discovered 7 individuals of the species in the Western Ghats rainforest in Kerala, India. The galaxy frog is a tiny amphibian measuring no more than about 1.18 inches and is the only known species in its family. It lives beneath fallen logs in the Keralan rainforest. The frogs are named for their appearance, with bright blue spots scattered across a dark blue body, giving them a star-like galaxy pattern. These spots are thought to be a mode of communication between the frogs. Quote, "I fell in love with these frogs after seeing them," Raj Kumar writes. Quote, "You feel like they're jet black in color, but when you put them under light, you can find all the stars like galaxies on their body. It's just magical." Raj Kumar was unable to visit the site during the COVID-19 pandemic, according to a report from the Zoological Society of London, where when he later returned to the rainforest, the galaxy frogs were gone and their habitat appeared to have been destroyed. Quote, "The big, beautiful fallen log that was completely broken and misplaced," Raj Kumar says, according to the Zoological Society of London report. He adds that the surrounding vegetation had been trampled and that the frogs were nowhere to be found. Initially, Raj Kumar suspected brown mongooses might have caused the damage, but he concluded they were not strong enough to overturn large logs. He later learned from a local tracker that several nature photographers had been visiting the site. Quote, "He, the tracker, mentioned that there were a couple of photographers visiting that location, several small groups. So later I contacted my other trackers and they started telling me everything that had happened," Raj Kumar writes. According to the trackers, photographers had been turning over logs while searching for the endangered galaxy frogs. When they found them, they allegedly handled and positioned the animals for photographs. The trackers report that the photographers did not wear gloves despite the frog's sensitivity, as they breathe through their skin. One tracker told Raj Kumar that 2 small galaxy frogs died after being handled for extended periods. Quote, "He said they would take the animal to some nice background or mossy log to take the photograph, relocating it from one place to another to get better photos," Raj Kumar writes. Quote, "On that day, they got 5 or 6 frogs and 2 of them died." End quote. Raj Kumar says he searched for months after the incident, but was unable to find any surviving galaxy frogs. He has condemned the photographers for interfering with the animal's natural habitat. Quote, "The rainforest department officers try to prevent these kinds of groups coming, but they use higher officials, politicians, high court judges, or something like that to allow them to take photographs," he says. The Zoological Society of London report notes that while wildlife photography tourism can provide crucial funding and backing for conservation, it must be conducted responsibly to minimize its impact on animals. This involves limiting the handling or capturing of wildlife, controlling the use of bright lights, and ensuring habitats remain undisturbed. Quote, "This sad event is a stark warning for the consequences of unregulated photography," Raj Kumar writes. Quote, "While their coloring and rarity makes the galaxy frog a sought-out subject for photographers, it's vital that those wishing to photograph these unique frogs don't inadvertently contribute to their extinction. It would be a tragic irony if a drive to capture their likeness on camera today turned them into a thing of the past." He adds, quote, "Done correctly, photography can be a huge asset to helping conservationists build our understanding of areas such as animal distribution or behavior. However, irresponsible photography can turn this asset into a hazard," end quote. And I agree 100%, and it really saddens me to read this story because I've always been a big advocate of wildlife photography and that genre of photography being used for conservation efforts. But you got to remember, people, don't tamper with the animals and don't tamper with their habitats. If you want to photograph them, that's fine, but you should not be trying to do staged photographs, especially with endangered species. That's never going to be a good thing for anybody. YouTube creator and do-it-yourself enthusiast Penguin DIY recently built a secret hidden camera inside a walnut shell, and it's an excellent, albeit nutty, example of what creative people with engineering skills can do with miniaturized camera technology. After splitting open the walnut shell and smoothing its interior, Penguin DIY got to work building his nutty camera. The builder installed magnets into the rims of both halves, drilled holes on either side of the assembled shell, and drilled a slot on the side for a USB-C port. To power the camera, Penguin DIY arranged 9 small 30 milliamp hour batteries inside the shell, flanking the USB-C port, leaving a cavern for the essential electronics and the camera system. While fitting the batteries themselves was not too tough a task, charging them is another matter. Even a small USB-C charging module is too big to fit inside the walnut camera, so Penguin DIY deconstructed it and reassembled the parts in a more space-efficient way. As for the camera, naturally Penguin DIY had to opt for a very small one. He settled on a mini FPV camera that can wirelessly send images, including video. To ensure a stable connection, Penguin DIY installed metal plates in the top half of the walnut shell to improve signal performance and strength. With all the components installed, it was time to test out the Walnut Secret camera, and sure enough, it works and can send video wirelessly to a receiver connected to another device via USB-C, including a smartphone. This is not Penguin DIY's first attempt at putting electronics inside nuts. Earlier this year, the YouTuber creator turned a pistachio into a Bluetooth-equipped wireless earbud. A couple of years ago, Penguin DIY also converted a walnut into a wireless speaker. While this newest project is the only one focused on turning a regular object into a camera, Penguin DIY's YouTube channel is a collection of eclectic DIY projects with electronics and is well worth checking out for people who love to tinker. As for other DIY camera projects, Petapixel has covered many of them over the years, including most recently a DIY medium format rangefinder camera and a waist-level viewfinder monochrome camera. There is no shortage of DIY projects for photographers to undertake. And I thought this was a real cool story to include today because it's just incredible that he was actually able to build a miniature still/video camera system into a walnut shell. That is just absolutely insane. I'm curious as to how he got the walnut shell, the two halves, separated without accidentally crushing them, because I know walnut shells can be notoriously hard to deal with as far as getting them open without destroying them. So I'm just curious as to how he managed to pull that off. The HiRISE camera inside NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter has captured its 100,000th image, marking a momentous occasion for the nearly 20-year mission. The 100,000th photo shows a region of Mars called Syrtis Major. This fascinating part of the red planet, located about 50 miles southeast of the Jezero crater that NASA's Perseverance rover is currently exploring, features wind-blown dunes. In a nice nod towards the importance of citizen scientists and community involvement, the subject of the 100,000th HiRISE photo was suggested by a high school student via NASA's HiWish site. Anyone can sign up and suggest areas of Mars for HiRISE to photograph. Quote, rapid data releases as well as imaging targets suggested by the broader science community and public have been a hallmark of HiRISE, says Sean Byrne, University of Arizona, HiRISE's principal investigator. Quote, once 100,000 images just like this have made Mars more familiar and accessible for everyone, end quote. The HiRISE camera, short for High Resolution Imaging Science Experiment, is capable of exceptional resolution and detail. The camera primarily operates in visible wavelengths and features a telescopic lens that can resolve objects as small as 3 feet or 1 meter on Mars' surface. This is quite the accomplishment given that the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter ranges from about 150 to 200 miles above the planet's surface. Although HiRISE primarily works in visible wavelengths, it can also observe in near-infrared wavelengths, which helps scientists learn more about the minerals on Mars. Thanks to its resolving capabilities, scientists use HiRISE images to analyze the Martian surface and characterize potential future landing sites. Data from the MRO helped NASA settle on where Perseverance landed in 2021, for example. Quote, HiRISE hasn't just discovered how different the Martian surface is from Earth, it also shown us how the surface changes over time, explains MRO project scientist Leslie Tampari of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Quote, we've seen dune fields marching along with the wind and avalanches careening down steep slopes, end quote. Congratulations to the NASA MRO team on HiRISE's 100,000th image, and here's to many more in the future. And I thought this was really cool because the human race is so into the whole concept of Mars, the idea of Mars and settling Mars and all of that good stuff. So I thought it was a good story to include in today's episode. Lens Rentals has shared its top photography and videography rentals of 2025, continuing the company's annual tradition of recapping the cameras, lenses, and accessories customers want the most. Yet again, the list is dominated by Canon and Sony equipment across the board. Looking first at the 20 most popular rentals overall, it's a healthy mix of cameras, lenses, and accessories, including common Sony and Canon batteries in 3rd and 20th place, respectively. The most popular photo and video gear rental of 2025 is the Canon RF 24-70 f2.8L lens, a classic part of the Holy Trinity and a piece of nearly every professional photographer's kit. The similarly impressive and influential Canon RF 28-70 f2L lands in 2nd place, just ahead of the Sony NP-FZ100 battery. The first camera on the list, the Canon R6 Mark II, lands in 4th place. The R6 II was very recently succeeded by the Canon R6 III, Petapixel's Camera of the Year, which will likely make Lens Rentals' top rentals breakdown in 2026. So let's start off the most popular photography and videography gear of 2025. Number 1 is the Canon RF 24-70 f2.8L IS. Number 2 is the Canon RF 28-70 f2L. 3rd is the Sony NP-FZ100 battery. 4th is the Canon EOS R6 Mark II. 5th is the Canon RF 70-200 f2.8L IS. 6th is the Canon 24-70 f2.8L Mark II. 7th is the Sony FE 70-200 f2.8 GM OSS II. 8 is the Sony FE 24-70 f2.8 GM2. 9 is the Canon 70-200 f2.8 LIS3. Number 10 is the Sony FX3 body only. 11 is the Sony 160 gigabyte CF Express Type A tough memory card. 12 is the Sony Alpha A7 IV. 13 is the Canon EOS R5. 14 is the Canon RF 100-500 f4.5-7.1 LIS USM. 15 is the Sony Alpha A7S III. 16 is the Canon 5D Mark IV. 17 is the Canon RF 50mm f1.2L. 18 is the Canon RF 15-35mm f2.8 LIS. 19 is the Sony Alpha A7 III. And 20 is the Canon LP-E6NH battery. The following 2 most rented pieces of equipment are both Canon lenses, the Canon RF 70-200 f2.8 LIS and the Canon EF 24-70 f2.8L Mark II. Speaking of EF lenses, the 24-70 f2.8 is not the only one to make the cut. The Canon EF 70-200 f2.8 LIS3 is also on the list in the 9th spot. The only DSLR on the list is the Canon 5D Mark IV in 16th place. Sony's first appearance on the list, aside from the ubiquitous NP-FZ100 battery, is the Sony FX3 cinema camera in 10th place. The Sony A7 IV, A7S III, and A7 III also all made the list. As for Sony Glass, the FE 70-200 2.8 GM OSS2 and the FE 24-70 f2.8 GM2 were the only two to make the overall top 20. In addition to the overall top 20 list, Lens Rentals also shared the top 20 camera and lens rentals of 2025, providing more insight into the cameras and lenses customers wanted to use this year. So, top camera rentals for 2025, number 1 is the Canon EOS R6 Mark II. Number 2 is the Sony FX3 body only. 3 is the Sony Alpha A7 IV. 4 is the Canon EOS R5. 5 is the Sony Alpha A7S III. 6 is the Canon 5D Mark IV. 7 is the Sony Alpha A7 III. 8 is the Canon EOS R5 Mark II. 9 is the Sony FX6 full-frame cinema camera. 10 is the GoPro Hero 13 Black. 11 is the Canon EOS R6. 12 is the Sony Alpha A7 R5. 13 is the Sony FX30 body only. 14 is the Sony CyberShot RX100 Mark VII. 15 is the Sony FX3 full-frame cinema camera. 16 is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 gimbal camera. 17 is the Nikon Z8. 18 is the Canon EOS C70 cinema camera and the RF mount. 19 is the Canon EOS R5C mirrorless cinema camera. And 20 is the Canon EOS R7. Unsurprisingly, among the 20 most popular camera rentals of the year, Canon and Sony utterly dominate. The first camera from another company is the GoPro Hero 13 Black action camera in 10th. The next is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 in 16th. The only other non-Canon or Sony camera on the list is the fantastic Nikon Z8 in 17th, although as the list of top 10 lens rentals below shows, no Nikon lens made the cut. The most rented camera list is quite diverse, although there are some notable trends. Most of the cameras are either hybrid models with strong video performance or video-first cameras like the Sony FX3, FX6, FX30, and the Canon EOS C70 and R5C. The inclusion of the Canon 5D Mark IV DSLR is interesting as it's not much cheaper to rent than the Canon R6 II mirrorless camera, suggesting the lasting appeal of DSLRs for some photographers. The Sony RX100 Mark VII compact camera is also a fascinating inclusion. It is the only point-and-shoot camera of its type on the list. So for the top lens rentals, we have number 1 is the Canon RF 24-70 f2.8 LIS. Number 2 is the Canon RF 28-70 f2L. 3 is the Canon RF 70-200 f2.8 LIS. 4 is the Canon EF 24-70 f2.8 L Mark II. 5 is the Sony FE 70-200mm f2.8 GM OSS2. 6 is the Sony FE 24-70 f2.8 GM2. 7 is the Canon 70-200 f2.8 LIS3. 8 is the Canon RF 100-500 f4.5-7.1 LIS-USM. 9 is the Canon RF 50mm f1.2L. 10 is the Canon RF 15-35mm f2.8 LIS. Number 11 is Canon RF 24-105 f2.8 LIS-USM-Z. 12 is the Sony FE 24-70 f2.8 GM. 13 is the Sony FE 70-200mm f2.8 GM OSS. 14 is the Sony FE 100-400 f4.5-5.6 GM OSS. 15 is the FE 16-35 f2.8 GM2. 16 is the Sony FE200-600 f5.6-6.3G OSS. 17 is the Canon RF24-105 f4L IS. 18 is the Sony FE28-70 f2GM. 19 is the Canon RF 85mm f1.2L. And 20 is the Sigma 24-70 f2.8 DG-DN2 ART for the Sony E-mount, which is definitely some interesting lenses. Lens Rental also tracks revenue shares by brand, further illustrating the dominance of Canon and Sony. Both companies gained revenue share for this year. The brand market share by 2025 revenue, the brand Canon had 23.96% in 2023, 25.69% in 2024, and 26.51% in 2025. Sony had 19.13% in 2023, 20.45% in 2024, and 21.66% for 2025. For Nikon, they were at 4.88%, 5.91%, and 5.56% for 2025. DJI was 3.31%, 3.80%, and 4.29% for this year. Blackmagic was 3.57%, 3.30%, and 3.15% for 2025, which shows a decline for them. Sigma was at 3.32%, 3.34% for 2024, and 3.13% for 2025. They are also down. Fuji was 2.24% in 2023, 2.59% in 2024, and 2.79% for 2025, so they are up. Aperture was at 2.03%, 2.37%, and 2.29%, so they are down. Panasonic was at 1.94, 1.98, and now at 2.01 for a bit of a bump. Leica was at 1.64, 1.47, and 1.52%, so they fluctuated. Red was at 2.03 for 2023, 1.27 for 2024, and 1.11 for 2025, so they are down. And Schatzler was at 1.38%, 1.07%, and 1.05%, so they are down as well. Compared to last, with Canon reaching 26.5% and Sony hitting 21.7%, Nikon is in a very distant third at 5.6%. While Fujifilm is a very popular camera brand among purchasers, it has historically lagged behind other brands in rentals. That hasn't changed in 2025 either, with the brand at 2.8% revenue market share. While this is actually up slightly from 2024, it still trails behind DJI, Blackmagic, and Sigma. The next major camera brands are Panasonic at 2% and Leica at 1.5%. And I thought this was just a great set of charts to share with you. I like to share Lens Rentals data each year with my listeners just to give you an idea of what the most popular cameras, lenses, and accessories are per Lens Rentals for each camera year. Remember to check out the Liam Photography Podcast Facebook group. It is a private group, and you must answer a security question to join, which is the name of the host of the show, myself, Liam. And I've also opened it up to allow you to give the name of a previous guest on the show to show that you're a listener. Once you are in the group, you are free to post your own original work. Additionally, I am the admin of the Fujifilm GFX 50R group, which is the largest group for the 50R on Facebook. If you own or plan to own the 50R, you can request to join that group. You can find my work at liamphotography.net and follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at liamphotoatl. If you like abandoned buildings and history, you can find my project at forgottenpiecesofgeorgia.com. All right, that's going to wrap up episode 485 of the Liam Photography Podcast. I want to thank all of my listeners once again for subscribing, rating, and reviewing us. in Apple Podcasts and anywhere else you might be getting your podcast. If you're not currently a subscriber, why not? It doesn't cost you anything but a second of your time to smash that subscribe button, so do it now, please, as well as share the show out on social media and elsewhere with your photography and videography friends and ask them to give it a subscribe and a listen. Also, remember to stop by the Liam Photography YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel, turn on all notifications, check out my most recent videos. There are many more content to come in the coming weeks, closing out this year and ramping up again for January of 2026 to bring in the new year. I did also want to share that my 50,000 plus subscriber giveaway contest did end this past Sunday. And the lucky winner was Jessica Gibson, and that Platypod Delta flat tripod has already been shipped out to her, so congratulations to her. Make sure you are subscribed to this show and the YouTube channel, because I will be doing another bigger giveaway when the YouTube channel finally reaches 100,000 subscribers sometime next year. All right, that is it for me. I will see you all again next Thursday.